What is up, everyone? Welcome or welcome back to Nestrophy. Today, I want to talk about bedroom mistakes that are so common. I see them everywhere. I've made them in the past, so definitely no judgment if this is you that I'm talking about. So, the first one I want to talk about is no rug in the bedroom, or wrong rug, or wrong placement of a rug. I think for some reason, rugs are complicated when it comes to where we put them in the bedroom, especially when you have hard floors, so maybe hardwood or tiles. I think this is where rugs become really crucial. But we have to think about how we place them. So I have a couple examples here. My first example is again no rug whatsoever. This is a very cold floor, and when you think about what your bed is, it's the centerpiece of the room, and you want to make it as inviting as possible. So when you walk into the room, it's the thing that's calling you, drawing your attention, and rugs are a really good way of doing this. So when you have a bed like this and there's nothing here, first of all, what are we doing when we step out of the bed? We're just stepping on the hard floor. I mean, unless you're sleeping in socks, which is very uncomfortable, you're just going to get that shock to your system because the floors tend to be quite cold. You're coming out of a nice, cozy bed. Why do that to yourself, right? You want to warm yourself up to the environment slowly instead of like getting completely shocked when your feet touch that cold floor. So, again, it doesn't give that warm feeling as soon as you see this. You're thinking, oh, that's not a very warm, cozy bedroom. So, let's add a rug, and you want to kind of go for about 70 centimeters if you have the space, which in this case they definitely do. And yeah, let's make this bed a little bit more cozy by adding a rug in this area. That obviously complements everything else that we're doing in the room in terms of style. And then we have some placements of rugs where people kind of understand the objective, where you want to have something warm and cozy to step on as you're stepping out of the bed before you put on your slippers. But then they've kind of just put it on this side here, which it's kind of confusing to me because are we sleeping alone, or have you done the same thing on the other side where you've got like, two runners? This isn't what it's for. And I think it looks slightly off because again, maybe we've achieved one goal, which is have something warm to step on when you come out of the bed. However, we're not achieving the entire goal, which is making the bed the centerpiece of the room and having this small rug to the side of this bed. I think this doesn't achieve the second goal. So let's make this rug, get a bigger one and take it all the way around the bed. It can look nice and presentable and ready for you to get in, or calling you, should we say. And then we have another one here where, so actually in all fairness, this isn't going to be a cold floor because I think this is carpet. But still, my problem is we are not centering the bed. The bed almost feels like a second thought, and the bed is the main place in the bedroom where you're going to do most of the bedroom activity, which is sleep. So you want to have the bed as like the centerpiece of the room as soon as you wake up. And having a situation where, I mean, the headboard is already quite small and also the rug over here is really small, there's nothing really telling you that this is the center of the room. Your eyes kind of dart around and it doesn't feel like you have that one big focal point. So I think this is the mistake of having a small rug at the foot of the bed, because what are we doing? Like, what are you trying? I mean, maybe they get dressed at the foot of the bed because there's a stool here, but I just think that that's a secondary activity. The main activity is the bed. So let's focus on the bed. Let's put the focus on the bed. So some ideas of how we can do this. So if you can see a well presented rug, this is really nice and big. There's enough room here that you could basically walk around, maybe go to the side table, maybe walk to these lights and switch them on. But you have enough space that you're not feeling like, okay, I've just got this tiny bit of space to step on just before I get out of bed. So you're feeling like, again, the bed is the true star of the room, right? And then we have a few other examples, again, done very well. The colors are complementing everything else in the room. Very nice space between the bed and the edge of the rug there. I've seen some examples where people think, okay, I have a carpet, I don't need a rug. And I think the effect, the extra luxurious feel that you get from adding a rug, that layering you get, it's unmatched. Okay, the carpet's not enough. I would rather you had like a hard floor and a rug than a carpet and no rug. So if you have to choose one or the other, because carpet's not that cheap either, if you have to choose one or the other, I would go with the rug and the hard floors. So what I like here is you could see again the two different types of textures and the way they, play with each other. It kind of gives your eye this feel of extra luxurious because it's different textures. And obviously rugs are also like a place where you could be quite creative and expressive in your style. And we can see this because carpets, I think they're a bit risky to go all in on patterns because of how complicated they are to change. But rugs, you could actually swap them out and resell them if you need to. So I think going neutral on the carpet and then going textured and really expressing yourself in the rug is the key there. And I think rugs give you that freedom that carpet doesn't. So if you want a plain, simple carpet to give you that warmth, do that, but definitely add some personality with the rug. I have another example. So when we look at this room and what they've done really well is they've used the rug to kind of tie the color scheme together, even though it's relatively neutral. So they've got that dark charcoal gray that's kind of the accent tone of the room, even though the rest of the room is quite neutral. But the way they've done it really well, and I think the thing that's pulled it in really well is the rug, because I think without the rug, the throw and the artwork would be great, but it wouldn't be completely tied in. The rug is a piece that brings everything together and makes that expression they put in the room stand strong and look very solid. So don't skip out on your rugs, please. Second point is no light controllers by the bed. This is such a big mistake. It's such a rookie mistake as well, because we don't always think about the small things when we're designing the room, but they can be so inconvenient once you've installed everything. Because when you think about the activities you have to perform before you go to bed, often you need more light than just the small single bedside lamp that you usually have. So you end up doing all this activity, and by the time you're done and you're ready to go to bed, maybe that main light is still on, and now you're in bed, you're tucked in, and you're like, oh my God, I have to get up and go and switch it off. And this is where thinking about these conveniences while you're designing could really help to elevate your life. So it's so much easier. So you have an example here of a good looking room, and they've got some wall sconces on the side, which is very nice because it's going to create some nice ambience. I guess they've gone for wall sconces instead of bedside lamps. But again, where are the light controllers for these lights? I'm assuming they're by the door, but how do you switch them off? So I think not thinking about this issue and thinking about, or maybe these guys, for example, in this picture, have the light controllers somewhere else, but I think they need to be somewhere where it's easy for your arm to just turn around and reach and just switch it off, right? So they've done the same thing here. They've got a wall sconce, but where are the light controllers? Again, it's a bit of a problem. I think that if you have a situation where you have forgotten about the light controllers, what you could do is go for smart bulbs. They can usually sync with an app on your phone, which is fantastic. And also you can control light temperature, which is great because in the morning you can get neutral lighting or maybe more warm lighting in the evening. And this is something you can do on your phone or even with Alexa, and you can control you could use voice activation to switch them on and off if you're already tucked into bed. The benefit of this is also, should you decide you're going to go for the lamp feature, I would not mind that. But again, install smart bulbs instead of having to look for the cord that this lamp is hooked on and having to like find it to switch it on. And also it means that as you walk into the room, say you've got some activities you need to do that require more lighting in the room and you need a main source, you could switch on, you could use Alexa to switch on your lamps when you're done and you're doing more relaxed activities instead of walking to the lamp to switch it off. But yeah, that's an idea that you could do. Or if you are in the process and you haven't finished installing, what I really like is some people put this in the headboards, and actually now you can get headboards with light switches. So if you have them right here and they're so convenient to switch on, perfect, right? You just think about this step before you finish the bed area. Say you've decided to go for the headboard with the light switches in it. Don't forget to make sure they are dimmable as well. That's another mistake I've seen people make, where you've just got a on and off switch. Yeah, you've just got something like this where it's an on and off switch. It's better than not having anything, but I think about the fact that you might want to have different moods set at different times of the day for different activities, and having dimmers is a really good way of doing that. So we've got some alternatives there. We've got smart bulbs, we've got dimmers in the headboard, or we've got on and off, which is the basic. But if you can't do that, at least we've got smart bulbs. So while we're here, I want to talk about power outlets by the bed. Guys, the amount of times I've had to stay somewhere and I'm looking for where I could plug in my phone so I could charge it, right? Most of us can't live without our phones these days. But for some reason, we forget that we need to charge them in the middle of the night. When we're designing the bedroom, we forget that. Sometimes the power outlet is literally in the middle of the bed behind me. So I'd have to like wedge myself back there, pull the bed. It's just so much hustle, so much hustle. Now, if you are in a situation where you have forgotten to add power outlets by the bed and there's nothing here that we can do, I think there's some solutions we could talk about. So, first thing is I've seen headboards that come with power outlets on the side, which is so fantastic. It's such a great idea. I love technology these days. Everybody's always thinking about how to make your life easier, and definitely consider having it in the headboard. The other thing I will say that I've noticed that they've done here is they've gone for USB plugs as well. So it's really great because sometimes you can't find your charger head. And I'm one of those people. I can never find my charger heads. I don't know what happens to them. I have a feeling, I have some theories, but we're not going to share them because we don't know if they're true, because someone keeps taking them and I don't know who. But we'll figure it out. There's this whole other story for another day. But yes, power outlets, and also try to have the headboards with the USB. If you're not going to go for headboards, there's options like this is a very small bedside table for when you have a narrow bedroom. But again, we've got the same thing here. We've got a power source just here. You could use USB to plug it in. But I would say avoid having the ones where there is no actual plug socket, because what if the other end of the cable is not USB-C? Because USB, you get different types of USB. So, you don't want to risk. You want to have an actual plug socket too, as well as USB for both situations. We've got some examples again here, nice and neat. What I really like about these bedside tables as well is they often have these lights that add to the ambience in the room, and I think they just elevate the space a little bit more than the standard bedside table. But obviously they're rare to find, so obviously if this isn't your style and you want to find something else, that's fair enough. But this is an option for when you need power outlets and you don't want to have to add extension cords, because it can get quite messy and you don't have to look for the plug socket every time. And you can go a step further. I've seen these ones where they've got wireless charging ports on top, which is fantastic if you're like me and sometimes are too tired and forget to plug your phone in. As soon as you place it down, it starts to charge, which is another plus. So moving on, I want to talk about beds that are pushed in the corner of the room. I don't know why this happens sometimes. I think it's actually more like a space thing. People are trying to do more with the room. I understand this, but it feels a little bit young, like a young person's bedroom. I think that when you get to a certain age, try to have zones, try to have things, try to create a space for just those activities that you need to do, especially something like sleep. It's so important to have really good sleep that I think your bedroom should be reserved for sleeping and not too many other activities. So get to a point where you respect the space that you sleep in, that it's only for sleeping in, because that will do wonders for you and your headspace. Because I think sometimes people don't realize that this could actually lead to insomnia. If you're in bed for too long, you could struggle to fall asleep because your body doesn't realize that this is a place where I sleep. So if you program your body that the bedroom is a place you sleep, and when you get in the bedroom, it will start to kind of settle down so that you could go to sleep properly. So I think the reason why people push the bed to the side is because they're doing too many things in the bedroom. And obviously, if this is your situation currently and you can't help it, fair enough. If you can, let's do something about it. So we've got some examples here where people have pushed the beds to the side. Now, this is a really big room, and I feel again this is the same problem. We're trying to do too much. Why is this swing here? It's so big as well, and look how much space it's taking up on the floor. Is it necessary to push the bed to the side for the sake of having this swing? I don't think so. The bed's too important. This swing should have been in another place, in another place of the room of the house, right? Just take it out of the bedroom. Do not make the bedroom anything more than what it needs to be, because its function is too important. So that's one example that I think is a bit of a mess. And this one I don't understand, because there's clearly enough space here that the bed could have been pushed more center. And my problem with having the bed to the side is not just about having the room that's off center, because obviously the bed, like we said, it is the centerpiece of the room. It has to be, right? But having it on the side, it just feels like the room is just awkward. It's just awkward, right? But also it's very hard to make a bed that's not in the middle, because how do you get to the other side? And we've got a lady here who's going to demonstrate how to make a bed that's in the corner of the room. Got a lady here doing some gymnastics just to be able to make the bed. Like, it's such a pain, right? You're having to get in the corner of the room and jump all over the place because you can't get to the other corner and you step on the bed to tuck the other side in only to come back, and it's such a mess. And I think that let's not do that to ourselves. It's unnecessary. And you need to make the bed on a daily basis. Why go through this? It's stress. You know what's going to happen? You're just not going to make the bed. You're going to wake up and just walk away. Because some days we don't have this kind of energy to be standing up on the bed like this. It's just too much. So what I will say is, if your bedroom is quite narrow, so there are going to be bedrooms where they're quite narrow, but there's different ways we could deal with really narrow bedrooms, right? You don't always have the space. So if it's a single room, fair enough. I don't think there's much you could do because literally you barely have space to put the bed in there anyway. But if it's a small double, get a small double bed. This is a bed that's probably 4 feet wide, and they usually take up less space than a standard double. So that could help you save a bit of space. What you want to do is add some floating bedside tables, something like this. Although I think that this is a bit too high. They should have lowered it a little bit so that it meets the mattress. I think having to raise your arm to grab whatever is on top of your bedside table is not a good idea. So this should have been lowered a little bit. But I think having something like this is a great idea. But I think looking at this room, for example, they didn't need to have this shelf here. It really wasn't needed. They could have moved this bed to the side a bit and have floating shelves on either side that are kind of small, just to center the bed so it's the center piece of the whole room. I think it brings it all just, it just looks so good. Okay. And then on this side again, we've got some good examples. They've used the floating drawers on both sides, and I think this is a small room. What they could have done is not gone for the, not puffy, but like the bed frame should have been thinner so it doesn't take up as much space because it's a narrow room. I like the idea they've got the pendants coming from the ceiling, and what this does is it takes away the need for you to put things on this side of the bed, because you might need lighting, right? Extra lights for when you're reading in bed or whatever else you want to do in bed before you go to bed. But it means having the hanging pendants gives you light. You get a light source without taking up the space over here. And having these hang again, you have more floor space, because in a small room you don't want to have everything on the floor. You want to get as many things off the floor as possible. So this is a great idea. We have a room here where I think they literally couldn't help it. They couldn't help it because it's a very small room, and also the window is awkwardly placed. It's not even on this side and this side. So I can see why in some situation you just can't help it. It has to go in the corner. But what I will say is they've done a good job of somehow making it look like it's still symmetrical by having a little bit of this room on this side and a little bit on this room on this side to kind of balance the room a little bit. So it still kind of looks a bit more balanced. So that's that. I want to move on to my final point. I mentioned this in my living room mistakes video, or I'll put a link up here. Matching furniture. This was, again, there was a time when it was way more common, maybe in the 90s, but I still see people do it today. Sometimes it looks quite good, right? Where you've got this nice contemporary side table, and obviously these tables are matching the bed. And I think it seems like a good idea, but I also think this is a missed opportunity for you to explore what other pieces you could add to the room, just so you could express yourself a bit more. So avoid having matching furniture, because I think it takes away from the design element or design aspect of the room. It doesn't feel as well designed. So of course, this furniture, complete no, because it's not enough that you're going to go and get this with the bed so that everything looks the same and that you didn't really take the time to think it through. But also, why would you get this and this? It's just the room starts to look very clunky and not thought through, because where are these pieces going to go? And I have seen it where people have stacked these chunky pieces of furniture next to each other, and it's just eating up the room, and the vertical space is starting to look quite messy because all these different heights here, you don't want to do that. And also, it almost feels like when you try to match the furniture, this mattress is quite thick, but you might get mattresses that are a little bit thinner that stop about here. Now, this is higher. So what do you do about that? I think having a well-designed room means you're thinking about how the different parts of the room and the different functions that need to take place work together, and how they all look together. And I think this is, I think, a furniture sales company, first of all. So they want to shove all these different pieces down your throat. But I don't think you need to get all of them. If you like the bed, fair enough, but don't get the matching bedside tables as well as these, I don't even know what this is, to be honest, and the side drawers. Okay, so we've also got this one. They're doing it again. They've got the tall side drawers, they've got the short ones with the mirror. I mean, do we need it? Then you've got this. It's just, I think it's so unnecessary. They're just trying to shove furniture down your throat so that you could buy more and more and more, and it's not, it's actually to your own detriment, if you know what I mean. You don't need that. So when done well, you want to find tones that match together. So for example, this headboard, right? It's got a nice mocha kind of look, but then you have the wooden tones in the side bedside table, and it looks so great with the gold accents. It just brings everything really nicely together. And this headboard, of course, they matched it with the backdrop down here, and also then the backdrop to the bedside table matches the bedside table really well. So just trying to take time to think through everything so that you're not just slapping things in one room and calling it a day, because it will actually look that way. We've got some more examples here. There's like a freedom of expression when you don't try to get a whole set that looks the same. Imagine if whoever sold this headboard to this person was trying to also sell them the matching bedside tables and the bench that goes at the foot of the table. It just, everything starts to look the same. But there's some freedom in here that they have when they can start to go, okay, what goes well? Okay, I'm going to select this. And your personality starts to come through, because with every furniture selection, you've taken the time to think about whether or not it works with the style. Do you like it separately? Do you like it, or you're obligated to buy it? Does that make sense? Because with the sets, it almost feels like it's an obligation. But with things that are selected individually, it feels more like you like it and you made a conscious choice to actually purchase it. And I really love, honorable mention, that they've added some red tones in the draping. They've added some red tones in the curtains just here to match the headboard, and the blue to match the skirting, and this is just a really well done room. That's it from me. If you've enjoyed this video, I'll be doing more. Let me know in the comment sections. I do want to do a different kind of video as well, where I review viewers' rooms and look at ways they can improve them. If that's you and you'd like to have a go, email me at nestraphy@gmail.com. That's it from me. I'm Zulfani Ineza, and until next time, bye bye.